Hello, everyone, and welcome to the C++ Open Office Hours. I almost said C++ C Sharp, but C Sharp 102 will begin tomorrow evening. And in the future, when we do these Open Office Hours, we're going to be blending the two things together, meaning it'll be C++ and C Sharp Open Office Hours. And I say that only because generally there's a small number of people that show up, and this will just serve everyone out there a little bit better, I think. But we are now recording, and I'm going to hand control over to Nelson for just a little bit, as we've had a bit of an emergency back home that I am dealing with at the moment. So I'll be joining you guys back here shortly, but Nelson, you should have full control of everything, okay?
Alright.
Thank you.
Control me, Nelson.
Okay.
Anyone who's got questions, go ahead, start throwing them in the question panel in the webinar. Have you been keeping an eye on the forums at all, or have you not had time?
No, I haven't had time.
There's a couple of interesting things that have come up.
Alrighty. Let me fire up my VM. Just get a basic program going so I can start answering questions.
I'm just hunting for questions in the forums at the moment.
So we did have some questions already. So it looks like we can't define an array of product names since string isn't a primitive data type, correct? So we need to hard code X number of string literals for our products and won't be able to loop through them. The answer is we didn't get to strings in the first week or the second week. And we will, Jason and I still haven't talked or gotten a chance to talk about the revisions we're going to be making for Friday's class. And so I can't say whether or not strings will be covered there either. But the answer is there is no primitive string type in C++. I don't want to introduce anything here that's new, but I do kind of want to point out that there is a string class that is available from the string header, and its name is just string. And it behaves similarly to C# strings, but not exactly. It's a class that requires some conversation about. So I just want to point out that using string arrays at the moment hasn't been covered, but it will be covered at some point.
Isn't it somewhere where there's sort of gotchas for people who are used to the way C# deals with things?
There's a lot of weirdness because strings themselves are not built into the language. It's just a class. The thing that is built into the language is a character pointer, but we're not talking about pointers yet. So as a result, and the string class is just a wrapper around a character pointer. And as a result, it's very difficult to talk about the complexities of it without having any other context.
Right.
So how can I get the euro symbol or the $ symbol to display in the console correctly? To my knowledge,
that's a pound sign, not a euro symbol.
To my knowledge, that displays just fine. As far as displaying the pound symbol, which let me go to Google, pound symbol money. Let me go ahead and just yank this out, copy it, and paste it because I don't have a keyboard that supports that. That literal will not display properly because that literal is a code point that is in the Unicode specification. Now, if we prefix that with an L, of course, that does not work either. If we use wcout and prefix it with an L, we still do not get the proper encoding.
Well, that was helpful.
Yes, very. Basically, doing Unicode console input and output is something I've never done before. I've done Unicode file input and output because the applications I've written in C++ that used Unicode were after I had spent a bunch of time in the console. So I do not know the rules of using Unicode in C++ off the top of my head, at least getting stuff to print out to the console. At the moment, it's going to all be in ASCII. It's not going to be in UTF.
Is there any sort of, I know it's probably way beyond where we are at the moment, but is there anything in any sort of localization for currencies like there is in C#?
No, not at all. There are libraries, external third-party libraries, but nothing built in. Actually, yeah, I think you're right. We do have to change some of the project settings. Although we are using a Unicode character set at the moment, according to that setting. For some reason, wcout, which should be the proper Unicode output. Okay, it looks like you have to set some sort of locale. But char 156 puts it out, so 156, which must be the ASCII encoding, or the ASCII code point for that symbol. There we go. So if you use the ASCII code point for that symbol, then you get the correct setting, or the correct output. How do you clear the console? Clearing the console in C++ is a little bit involved. To my knowledge, there is no way inside of there's no way inside of C++, the standard itself, that allows you to clear the console. But there are Win32 specific, so Windows specific commands that allow you to clear the console, but those won't be cross-platform. You can do this. That will clear the console. But there's a very big problem with this, which I described earlier with the problems of using system pause. The problem with this is it's slow, not cross-platform, a very large security hole, and ultimately something you never ever want to touch ever because it's horrible and disgusting. So the answer is
How
you
do you
can't
really
use
feel about it?
Yeah. Actually, I did have like a Stack Overflow answer that I got a lot of upvotes for when I talked about all the nastiness about system.
That's the ultimate in geek bragging, by the way.
Yes.
I got loads of upvotes on Stack Overflow, dude.
Okay, so the answer is no. Don't worry about clearing the console right now. You can with Win32 libraries, you can with the system call, but neither will be cross-platform or very good.
Here's a question that's come in. What is the purpose of the CLR console app? Why the hell would you want to use C# code in a C++ app?
Well, that's a good question. And the answer is you're not using C# code, and you aren't really using C++ code either. What you are using is an extension to C++ written by Microsoft called C++ CLI, which allows you to interact with the .NET framework. Of course, IntelliSense in Visual Studio 2011 does not support C++ CLI, but you can use .NET types within this, and it runs as a managed process with native code. And so here's your normal assembly info. Here's an extension, for example, adding attributes into C++. To create a .NET type in C++, it's something like you do gc new class bleh. So this is a .NET type within C++ CLI. Then you have these little funky symbols right here, which means these are references to .NET types. And it's all in all a fairly gross language extension, but it has its uses. When you have a large C++ library that you want to use in C#, if you wrap it inside of a C++ CLI application, it'll allow you to expose that into C# itself. So, yeah.
So if you were writing, say, a DLL and you wanted to write it in C++, but you knew somebody was going to use it in C#, you do that.
Yeah, you would write a wrapper DLL in C++ CLI that exposed the native code into the managed runtime.
Cool.
Okay.
Someone pointed out, actually, because I do this all the time, you may want to say what ASCII is if you didn't in class.
ASCII is the American Standard for Communication, American Standard Communication Information Interchange, something like that. ASCII is a standard that specifies what numbers equal what characters. So, for example, here's an ASCII table. So this is what each one of these symbols get represented with what each one of these numbers. And you see there's a variety of different, there's decimal, hexadecimal, octal, and then HTML encoding, and then the character that's printed. So that's all ASCII is it's a standard. It's a very old standard that when the United States realized that there were that other countries spoke different languages, it became very
in October, wasn't it?
Yeah. It became very problematic to use ASCII. So as a result, Unicode was invented. And Unicode is also a language like this. And Unicode defines what are called code points, which are what these numbers are. It defines code points for a glyph. And Unicode is interesting because a single character, the data type character in C++, because this will typically only allocate a single byte of information, not every code point in Unicode can be represented with this data type. So as a result, Unicode has a variety of dialects, or not dialects, a variety of formats called like UTF-8 or UTF-16 or UTF-32, which define how wide the characters are. But in the case of UTF-8, for example, some characters might be 1 byte long, but other characters might be 3 bytes long, or 2 bytes long. Some characters might be 4 bytes long.
So when you say wide, you don't mean like how many pixels wide, do you? You mean?
No, I mean how many bytes it stores. So that's why it becomes very problematic, for example, to count the length of a Unicode string, because some bytes might be, or some characters might be multiple bytes, and things become very fun. Now in C# land and most dynamic languages, it's all taken care of you behind the scenes, and you don't have to worry about it. C++ you really do. And as people have already probably realized, I haven't spent a lot of time working in Unicode and C++, and that's something that we're going to have to pretty much spend a good chunk of time in class explaining and talking about, because it becomes important very soon, but it's not something that's simple enough for us to explain right now.
Well, Wolf says, and again, it's another nomenclature question. It is never clear to me what you mean when you say wrapper. With a W, not like with chains.
When I say wrapper, I mean wrapper?
Yeah, but what do you mean when you say you're going to wrap it in? Obviously, you're going to wrap it, but.
I hate you so much.
That wasn't. I didn't do it. I was using Pastebin. Sorry, I should point this out to everyone. Let's check this out. Brony hate going on Pastebin.
Panel bronies. And I Googled it and I found it. It's a really sad story about this guy buying a pony in a store. And a guy walks up to him, takes the pony out of his hands, unpacks it, rips off its head and throws it at him, then beats him up. Yeah.
Anyway,
so what I mean wrapper, so what we're talking about where you would have like a native DLL or a C++ DLL, and you want
a shift key?
No, I got this. I need a more steady hand if I'm going to be able to get anywhere in drawing. Okay, so you have a native C++ DLL. So this is a library that you want to use in a C# application. What you would do is you would wrap it, meaning you would write a C++/CLI DLL that would contain the native DLL, but then export the types in a way that could be understood by the C# application. Because right here you have .NET, and the C++ CLI application communicates with .NET, and of course C# communicates with .NET, and as a result, the C++ CLI wrapper gives you a compatibility layer over the native C++ code.
That's the adapter design pattern.
Yes, actually it is. Okay, so
Segfault said, could you wrap a static library in this manner?
Can you wrap a static library? Sure. You can reference static libraries from C++ CLI. Okay, so then what else do we have?
Well, there's one here. Can you explain this line of code? Auto is even equals j modulus 2 is equal to 0. With special reference to the number of equals is, I paraphrase.
Let me see. Shut up, Gav.
I'm gonna make you some keyboard overlays for your number keys.
No, I don't need.
You do.
Okay. So this application or this code, the equals operator really. Hello. Hello.
Nelson.
Hello.
Nelson.
Hello.
Whoa.
Gavin. I think Gavin might have just blue screened or something. Wait a second, am I hearing Gavin type? But he can't hear me, but I can hear him and everybody else can hear me? That really doesn't make any sense.
No, I'm still here. Can people hear me? And do I sound normal? I mean, as normal as I sound.
Can you hear me now, Gavin?
Oh, yeah, you're back.
Oh. Okay, well that was weird.
Oh, look. Oh, see, I didn't touch Skype, so clearly my bandwidth is having issues.
Ah.
Let me turn Skype off altogether. Sorry about that. Please carry on.
Okay. What was I doing? Okay. David Smith. Do you understand Do you understand this if statement right here, this if and else statement? Or are you still maybe a little bit confused about the operator right here? I don't. If you're typing in BuzzNet, I don't know your username. Okay. Well, sweet, because all this is doing, this is if only expects a, well, not in C++, if can take whatever you throw at it because, anyway, if expects a Boolean type. Of course, other types can be converted into Boolean types, so that's irrelevant. This expression returns a Boolean, meaning I could do this. I could say bool is true equals that, and then I can simply say is true. And this is the exact same thing. All we've done is we've taken this Boolean expression and we've aliased it out into a variable, which we then checked in the if statement. So this...
I was just going to say that before you move that, it might have been easier to see the order of operation if you put parentheses around the...
Yeah, that's going to be the order of operations right there. And so what you have here is a Boolean expression that's being aliased into a variable, which is what if statements do. There's no difference between this code and this code. We could just as easily take this expression and we can take this expression and we can stick it right in the if statement, or we can alias out to Boolean. Now, in the context of this, what's going on is this expression starts off with the modulus expression, which a number modulus 2, which is going to return 0 or 1. And then this equals, this equality operator, is then going to convert the result of this, which is 0 or 1, into a Boolean and invert it. So it's going to say, if this is 0, then return false, or true. If this is false, then return true. So we've effectively converted this into a Boolean and inverted it by specifying equals to 0. As a result, the type of this expression is a Boolean, which you can see represented by mousing over the is even variable, and you'll notice it says bool is even. A value of 1 or 0 by itself will not turn this into a Boolean. In fact, if I were to take off this final equality operator and hover over again, you'll notice it turns into an int, because the result of a modulus operation is an integer. So as a result, the implicit typing kicks in and turns this into an int. But by adding on this additional operator, we now have a Boolean because the equality operator returns a Boolean.
Okay. And is that how auto finds that out, if you see what I mean?
Right, because this expression, it gets turned into a Boolean because of the last operation always returns a bool. So that's how auto picks up on that fact that's a Boolean. Okay.
Brisbane was asking about order of operation.
Yeah,
and I'm always banging on about it.
Yeah, but that's something
you really need to do that in a class.
Yeah, that's something I would want to do in a class. Okay, so we had a few threads then. So nobody, the questions in the webinar will take precedence, but I guess we have a few questions in threads that I'm going to pull up right now. So if you guys have any more questions, just dump them in the webinar, and I'll get to answering them. Where in this thread, Gavin? Or actually, I can just bring this thread over.
Not specifically. There's just various points have come up at various points.
Yeah, florum is correct right here. This is not a primitive.
Oh yes, floating point error. There's been a few questions about this.
Elevating, yes. Auto is the same as var in C#. Well, yeah, the question was, auto is the same as var in C#. Yes, they're both the same way to express implicit typing.
Do you want to talk a bit about floating point error and error in general and what it is and how how to avoid it?
Well, floating, that gets actually really complicated, but the gist of it is that floats are very difficult to check for equality, and they're also very difficult to perform operations on them if their significant digits are not near the same place values. Now, however, this program right here, let me paste this in here. Yeah, that extra comma actually makes me cringe too. See, I'm not getting that behavior with these values. That being said, well, actually, here's the funny thing. He has a int uselect, and then he says user cache equals at uselect. If he doesn't have a cin right here, then yeah, this is going to produce something weird. It might crash. There, crashes. Let's see if we can just bar. No, it's not going to let me.
Properly crashes.
Yeah, it crashes for reals this time. But if I do like 6, I get 0. What if I do 7? Yeah, if I type in 7, I get this number because I'm subtracting a random number that was accessed in memory. So,
nice.
Yeah. Because C++ has no array bounds checks. So you're going to want to validate that the user input is within the bounds of the array prior to doing any computation.
And for anyone who isn't familiar with the maths and is wondering about numbers with e's in the middle, just because it is something that various people have seen because of this, it's I can never remember what it's called. Is it log notation? Exponential notation?
Yeah, I think it's exponential notation, so it's called.
Basically, that means e plus, and then a number means 10 times 10 to the power of that number. In this case, it's a very small, very, very small number.
Barry says double price equals 5.00 C out price. I mean, oh, how do you get the 00 to show up? That could be that's a formatting option within C out. I do not know off the top of my head. C out money formatting. There's a variety of different things that we can do in C out, but they're all pretty kind of ugly. Okay, so if we include this random IO MANIP, and nobody is required to do this, but I'm just answering the question. And we pass in fixed, followed by set precision. Let's set precision to 2. then that'll actually modify the behavior of cout and give us that nice little double precision. C++ doesn't seem to be user-friendly. No. No, it does not.
I'm sat here thinking the more I learn about it, the more I like C#.
But this is how you would do the... so just look at the documentation of this header, and it'll give you some modifiers that you can use with cout to get your formatting different. Is there a way to make Visual C++ ignore all of the warnings and just run the program? If I had my way, everybody would be treating warnings as errors. I really do not suggest ignoring warnings, and especially runtime warnings, because those runtime warnings are making it so that your program doesn't do anything that it shouldn't do ever. Even for debugging, I would definitely avoid it. I don't know if the answer is I don't know, but it's just because I've never.
In a debugging situation where you've got a lot of different sections that are throwing errors, you're far better off commenting out all bar one and doing them one at a time, if at all possible. Bringing in the bits you need as and when you need them, rather than because that sounds like the sort of situation you're envisaging. Rather than trying to debug one bit through the bugs elsewhere.
Yeah, you would want to, or simply just fix every warning one by one. Okay. Okay. All right, so I guess we're going to jump back into that thread now. Okay. Trouble with my code falling through my if-else statements. Can't seem to know what the problem is. Oh.
He solved that.
Okay. When you use an opening brace, you need to close it. Well, yes, you do. Yeah, so 2secs actually pointed out what I think the problem could be. But see, the thing is, though, is that if he had this and he was using visual, actually, I think pretty much any platform would throw a access violation exception when trying to use an uninitialized variable to index an array. Are we allowed to clear the console? Very, very, very much discourage it based off what I said earlier about the only way that we can without importing the Win32 libraries is by using system, and system's use is highly discouraged. And someone suggests putting it there.
Actually, he does get a big, long list of why. Oh, there we go.
Oh, here we go.
NATO!
Okay, well, that's it for that thread, I guess.
I think it was largely the floating point error in that one that I meant to remind you about, because it is something that would come up and people go, what the hell is that number? When it's essentially 0.
Right. But I mean, that's something that have to prepare something for.
And this one isn't so much a question. I did want to say props to Wolfery if he's in here. It's really over, above and beyond.
There is actually, instead of using limits.h, there is a way to do this in C++.
Are you going to show us?
I will show you. I believe it's within the limits h file. Let's say we want to get the maximum count for an integer. We can do numeric underscore limits int comma or colon colon, and then we can look at any of this stuff. So we can look at is integer, is signed. There should be a max value here somewhere, unless I'm blind.
It'd be under M. There. Max.
Ah, there we go. So here's the maximum value for an integer. And then here's the max value for a Boolean. And so on. So that is a way to do it. This is the modern way to do this same thing, instead of using the limits.h. So I just did want to point that out.
Comic Sans, I didn't find it actually, but Comic Sans did bring up some interesting points, because obviously he's not in the class. He was just trying to help some people out from not knowing what you taught and hadn't. But he was talking about scoping in terms of things like includes and namespaces, and
Ready?
how it can clutter up your namespaces. And you appear to have a moose in your living room.
Do what?
Sounded like a moose in your living room.
No, it's a vacuum cleaner.
Close.
Okay, long float is not standard C++. Long double is fine. Yeah, he does bring up a good point. You can't get smaller than a character, because that's a single byte. And you cannot address anything smaller than a byte. Someone attempted to create a bit-sized data type. Ouch, that must be fun. I don't know if Nelson mentioned it, but you were actually using the limits to the C-style way. The modern C++ way of doing it is using std numeric limits. That's funny. Okay, so it looks like that's about it, other than just showing this. Okay, so are there any questions? Any questions about homework? Any questions about what's been covered? Any just general questions about C++ for people who have general questions? Obviously, people who have questions about homework will get a priority. Says char ble equals 1. I mean, you can do that. There is an implicit conversion between integers and character types, or character literals. Okay, is the C++ 101A homework the same as the 101B homework? Yes. Is the C++ 101A homework the same as the C++ 101B homework? Yes. In this case, ICS 4 equals 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, we did not go over array initializers, but yeah. Is the last comma problematic? The answer is no. It's just annoying. I don't like seeing commas not followed by something. In most constructs in the C++ language, and in most languages, commas are very important. And I'm going to go close my door. So as a person who, I mean, just when you write code for a long time, seeing a comma like that will just really trip you up, and it'll just look ugly. And I discourage using it like that. How hard will C# 102 rock? Fairly decently. Is it illegal to use Antler to build a COBOL compiler? If you really wanted to go through all that work, but then it's still up to Gav, though.
What is?
Using Antler to build a COBOL compiler for the homework, I'm assuming.
I don't. I think he was just being silly. I also can't see how that would help you with the homework.
I mean, it'd be fun, I guess.
You're weird.
Okay, can't do math with doubles. Well, math generally works with doubles fairly straightforward with some issues. Oh, I forgot we have no resharper. So in this case, the behavior is what we would expect. In a lot of cases, it will be what you expect. Is there any more specific question about math with doubles that you're having issues with? Because they do have some problems when you do get into very precise numbers. So, yeah. I know it's probably not recommended, but how would you be able to call an array like this, array strength? Do you have any code that you can shoot my way, Robert? And Brady, I'm not sure what you mean.
That's probably Brady.
Brady, I don't know. I can't pronounce words.
Words.
Yes. Oh. Certainly, that's completely supported. The question was, would he be able to do something like this? So, I mean, yeah, accessing an array index by a variable is a very common use case for variables. The problem is that C++ does not do variable bounds checks, which leads to what are called buffer overruns. So for example, if I were to change this to 20, so I'm looping 20 times, and I'm accessing an array with 10 indices, and run this, it might not crash, but I just overwrote 20 bytes of information, or 20 times 4, 80 bytes of information in my process that probably should have been used for something else. And as you'll see, when I exit the program, it tells me that stack around the variable my array was corrupted.
I was going to say, do you want to see out your array and see what we get?
Well, if I see out the array before with 20 indices, or after, sorry, it should be good. But if I do it before, it should be bad. So this is what we get before, And this is what we get after. So what we get after is proper. It's just we have overwritten memory, which is very bad. And of course, we get a runtime check failure. It's also a massive, ridiculously massive security vulnerability when you overrun an array, like ridiculously so.
Well, yeah, you have no control whatsoever over what's being left in your...
Yeah.
You have no way of getting back to it, more to the point.
And there's no, and the way that stack frames work, the return address is pushed onto the stack at the end of the function, meaning with the buffer overrun, you can overwrite the return address of the function, meaning you can get execution to jump into any arbitrary memory location that you wish. It's definitely fun. Okay, so can I go in depth why this is a security issue? Well, like I just said, every function that's put onto the stack has what's called a return address. And that return address is where execution is going to go after the function has completed execution. Now, because that return address is in memory, just like a variable is in memory, it's placed side by side with all the other local variables that are on the stack with your function, meaning that with a buffer overrun, you can overrun into the return address of a function and change the return address. And so when the CPU gets to the end of your function, it says, okay, now I'm done with the function, now where do I go? It's going to jump to whatever location that the hacker specified. And this is how, like, vulnerabilities, like let's say there's a buffer overrun in Photoshop where a particular sequence of characters on a PSD, or not characters, but pixels being set on a PSD, is found to overrun a particular buffer in a dependable way. Well, all a hacker has to do is orchestrate a PSD with code in it, then get the buffer to overrun on the exact place, and then get it to jump to a location of code that he loaded in. So, yeah. Okay, so got strange problems. And then, of course, the stupid focus issue again. I hate focus with webinar thing. Okay, user cache. Okay, so we did go over your question in the thread. I recognize your code. Let me go ahead and pull up that thread because I did have a question for you about your code. And I'm talking to Robert right now.
He's stuck his head above the parapet. Just like in one of your terrible first-person shooters you like playing.
Okay, so here's the code you posted in the forum. Now, uSelect, here's the important bit. If uSelect is not within the range of 0 through 3, you will get very odd behaviors. If you set uSelect to 5, what it's going to do is it's going to grab memory outside of the bounds of the array and use that to do the computation. And it's very likely that that memory is not even compatible with the float data type and is going to cause some really strange behaviors. And like Segfault said in all caps, uSelect is very likely not between 0 and 3. So just make sure that uSelect is validated to be between 0 and 3.
At the moment, it's just got random data in it, presumably, because you haven't initialized it to 0 specifically, or anything else specifically.
Yep. It will retrieve the dollar amount if it's between 0 and 3, because this item price array only has 4 elements in it. If uSelect is not within the range of the elements that item price array contains, it's going to grab random garbage memory for you and to happily hand it back to you and say, here's your data. And then your program will continue to happily use that data to come up with bizarre results.
The point is, at the moment, you've declared useLect, but you haven't actually told it what it is.
Right. So this is pointing at garbage memory at the moment.
The next line is user cache minus item price array sub random number.
Well, then could you post the? Could you paste bin me the your source file and just stick it in the webinar chat? Like, don't put it in BuzzNet. Just stick it in the webinar chat.
The questions panel, you mean?
The questions panel. Words hurt right now. Okay. Well, that's fine. If you go to pastebin.com, actually, I hate pastebin. Go to gist.github.com. So go here to gist.github.com, paste your code into this box, and say create public gist. Then you'll have a URL that you'll be able to send to us. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and answer another question. I got strange problem with double math, or not seeing it. Well, you just have to go to gist.github.com and then say create public gist after you type it in here. Sometimes just takes a few seconds to load up.
Not like pastebin.
Why did I abandon pastebin? Because gist, every time you create a gist, it creates a GitHub repository that you can actually edit, fork, and add to as if it was it is a Git repository. So it's a lot nicer. And I like the syntax highlighting more, and as a nicer language select drop-down box, and you can add multiple files really easily. It's just a pastebin, but with more features.
Essentially, he's a fanboy.
Well, I use GitHub anyway, quite frequently. That's what 3DBuzz uses for all of our source control. Yeah, we'll be talking about Git at some point in our programming classes. Git and SVN, although I don't really use SVN anymore either.
NATO. Trade secrets, everyone.
Actually, you can't throw a rock in a populated city and not hit at least 3 people who are using GitHub in some capacity.
You'd probably get arrested.
Possibly.
Meanwhile, back at the questions.
So Barry has some code, I guess. All right. Auto product 1 equals stuff. What's the problem? Yeah, that's basically what you're going to have to do for right now.
What is he going to have to do?
Not using an array of strings, because we haven't covered the data types that strings can. I know it's so painful. I mean, you can, if you really, really, really wanted to. Or, sorry. Don't tell Gavin I'm showing you this.
Okay. Wait, what?
If you are utterly and completely terrified of this syntax, don't bother. But if you can understand that syntax without me explaining anything, then, I mean, go for it.
Go for your lives. Right, delete it. Oh, look, a badger with a gun. Can you see?
It's just ugly. Yes. Yes, it is. See, it's a constant character pointer array. That's what this is.
This is not an int vector of int vector of int vector of ints.
Well, I mean, you could have a vector, a vector, a vector, a vector of constant pointer, character array pointer, if you wanted to. I mean, or we could just have a pointer to a...
Segfault.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that we could have a pointer to 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 a pointer, and then let's make this a reference.
Okay, this is getting silly now.
Deity, that's, we have an entire class about pointers. And yeah, there's no such thing as a very brief explanation. Robert, did you get it in your code in Pastebin yet? Or not Pastebin, in GitHub? Because I really can't answer your question without seeing the rest of your code. Well, you're saying that you're getting strange results with some double arithmetic, but if you type in gist.github.com.
That's why Pastebin's easier.
I mean, and if you have problems with that, you can try Pastebin as well. Just either way, I really need to see all the code. Yeah, I do feel bad about not getting around to covering strings, but we're so strapped for time anyway in the classes with what we did cover that, you know, and they do really warrant a discussion. All right, did you get to Pastebin or GitHub yet, Robert? Or you can PM it to me if you want. Oh, okay. Nato asks, are strings very different in C++ compared to C#? Yes. Yes, they are. So there's really no such thing as a string in C++. There are character pointers. Well, there are character pointers, and then there's wide character pointers, and then there's strings, and then there's wide strings, and then there's you can PM. I'll send you my username. There you go. How do I get access to the math bundle on the Unity 3D website? I don't know. Oh, on 3D Buzz? I think you have to pay for that one if you're a member sponsor. In fact, I'm fairly certain you do. And the reason is, yeah, you have to pay for all these. You can order it in the store. And the reason is these were done by by another person, by Steve Twist. who isn't technically, or he isn't an employee of 3D Buzz. So 3D Buzz pays him royalties for those videos. So as a result, that doesn't quite work well with the member sponsorship subscription. So as a result, some videos are not available to member sponsorships because of that. Yeah, like Segfall points out, there's only a few. Is there a way to only get the last 7 items in a C# list and add them up? Yeah. You can use link for that, but we haven't quite covered link, and I don't think we're even getting into link, even in the 1 and 2 class, just because it requires quite a bit of prerequisite knowledge to actually understand. But without link, you could write a for loop, something like this. So if, let's say I have a list of numbers, and I wanted to add up the first 7, then I would just, create ints or var sum equals 0. And why am I not using implicit typing? And then we could simply do for var I equals 0, I smaller than math dot max mylist dot length or mylist dot count 7. Actually, math dot min. I'm stupid. I plus plus, and then we can say sum plus equals mylist at I, and then of course we have our sum. If I can find out how to, Gavin, I will. There we go. I think I did.
I'm back.
Hi. And of course, to do the same thing in link, we could simply say var sum 2 equals mylist dot take 7 dot sum. But yeah.
Actually, Segfall is not just C++. Well, officially. But yes, it is a 101 class.
Oh, I'm supposed to add up the last 7? Well, then why didn't anyone tell me? That's not what I wanted. In that case, we could just simply say I equals mylist dot length. And these are, or dot count. And by the way, these are actually technically C# and C++ open office hours. And I'm still waiting on a final question, or the final question that I know about, to come into my PM box. So we can say I is greater than math dot max mylist dot count minus 7 and 0, and then I minus minus. And this should give you something, like an index out of range exception, because we would want to start at I minus 1. Okay. How would I grab a single digit from number? What?
Just so you know, I've lost my questions panel. Not desperate, but just so you don't expect me to see anything in it.
Let's see what happens when I click on this button.
Nothing noticeable. Never mind. Carry on.
Nelson actually isn't. It's my username is this, like literally including the greater than and less than symbols. It's kind of all bracketed like that because I'm cool. All right, so we have a PM now, or I have a PM, and it has code in it. All right, I just want to pull this up on a different screen because I don't want to pull anybody's homework. Well, actually, let me just go ahead and I'm going to steal my VM away from you guys. Now you guys get a look at Spitfire.
Have you got access to the recording software?
Nope, that's Jason's side. Okay, let's format that. Ooh, we got a build error. Tricked me. I was in the wrong project. Okay. Let's say spend 100. Okay, so that is just a typical rounding error right there, as far as the way that the precision. Yeah, I wonder if. I wouldn't worry about that just now. We're going to have a class about some more precision stuff. Precision stuff here at some point, because that's been a lot of people have been asking about that. That looks like that's exactly what's wrong with your code. I don't think there's anything functionally wrong with your code other than it looks like there is a problem with the precision. How are you going to record the C# class when Jason is gone? We'll set up recording software on my computer when Jason's gone. But right now, because he's actually recording, I don't have access. Okay, so how many more questions do we have? I did see the question about grabbing individual digits. From a particular number. So I guess I can answer that. That's not really part of stuff, but I'm more than happy to answer it.
Was that Brisbane's thing or?
Brady.
Ah.
Well, sin.ignore, it's about the when you accept an integer or a digit or a number from sin, what's going to happen is when I hit the enter key, the new line, well, actually, let me go ahead and do a better example. The new line character that I entered by hitting the enter key actually got added to the character buffer inside of sin. Unfortunately, when I retrieved the integer number from sin, the new line did not get eaten. So that new line stayed in the buffer. Because that new line stayed in the buffer, the next time I did a sin.get, I would end up with it returning immediately with my new line. I would suggest using doubles for the homework. Robert, no. You cannot use return to exit a loop. A return at any point, and I don't even know why that happened. A return at any point is going to, inside of main, is going to exit the program. That being said, well, we'll go over ways to exit out of loops in class. Or you can ask segfault. So do you need to make more than one sin.ignore in your code? No. You only need one. Alrighty. Well, I am going to step outside, and then if there aren't any more questions when I get back, I guess that's about it. So,
okay.
Yes.
Well, I shall loiter for a while.
Yes, entertain people, please.
Oh dear. Crash. Why, hello there. I don't do dancing. I'm a musician. That's all right, Bobridge. Tell you about ponies. They're small things that you're in great danger of running over around where I live. Really? What do you play, Bob? Cool. Moose are about like 3 or 4 feet tall. No, you're not so full. Me, sax and bass. Of course, this is all being recorded. Yeah, Moose, there's not so much those you need to worry about as the deer, particularly at the time of year when they have antlers. You would, Moose. Well, I don't see how Pastebin's still text-based. It's not going to stop anyone cutting and pasting, is it? Yeah, but you know. I don't have to play music now. You couldn't afford me, sir.
Hello.
Hey.
So, did you answer the questions about the homework? Because it's really a matter
What
of
questions?
allowed to use break or continue and IO main IP.
Bearing in mind I don't really speak C++, it's entirely up to you.
I kind of want to say no. I kind of want to say yes. So I'm delegating to you.
I don't understand the question. Back to you. Boom.
Using breaks and continues and loops is the first one.
I have no issues with it. I don't know what necessarily it causes to happen, if anything, in C++.
That behaves similarly to C#.
Actually, this is a point that has come up in passing with someone, which is that the various different IDEs that people use will obviously be spitting out different sorts of solutions and such like.
They should be relatively similar if you're using standard C++.
That's cool. I need to
Hopefully.
grab you to talk about a few things homework related, but not in the middle of a lesson.
All right. So I guess the answer is no for homework 2, and we'll talk about stuff in the next class. We'll cover those in the next class, and we'll figure that out.
And yes, Deity. Yes, Project Euler. Go do Project Euler. Do the first dozen or so up Project Euler things if you're looking for something small to program as practice. They're particularly useful for getting used to dealing with input and output of strings and such like.
Okay, anybody else have any more questions? Because I think it's getting to about time to stop. What's my favorite pony? Well, I mean, there's only one answer. Really. Rainbow Dash is the best pony.
Hey, Nelson, are we getting close to the end of Open Office?
Yeah, I just announced that we're about to be heading off unless any more questions come out. But I did actually step outside to allow people to ask questions, and I don't see any.
Okay.
So I think we're about done.
Okay, fantastic. Well, with that being the case, we'll go ahead and shut it down now, and I'll get this video encoded and upload it for those that need to review anything that was said, or for those that missed it. Apologies that I was not able to join you guys today, but I will be seeing you guys again. Let's see, we got a class starting tomorrow night, C# 102. Yeah, that's it.
Yay!
Yay, that's going to be awesome. And then Friday, another class. Oh yeah, and UDK tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow is going to be hardcore. I'm glad everything that's happened today has happened today, not tomorrow. Otherwise, things would have been a lot more crazy. My dad had a small stroke and is in the hospital. That's what happened. So it's been a lot going on. But he seems to be doing okay. They're running a whole lot of tests right now. But I did get to speak with him for a little while. So.
Oh, that's good.
But yeah, I was quite terrified while having to wait for the opportunity to talk with him. But so yeah, sorry guys that I wasn't able to join you guys. I do love these open office hours because it's fun to just give Nelson pure hell. But we can catch that on the next open office hours. So we'll go ahead and close things up. Thank you guys for taking your time out to join us tonight. We do appreciate it. And for those of you in the C# 102 class, we will see you tomorrow evening. For those of you in UDK, we'll see you tomorrow afternoon. You guys have a good night. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye,
see
guys.
you.